You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers about hikers for everybody.
This is the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where we hang out and talk about everything from hammocks and hammock camping to the group hangs from around the country. Hey everyone, welcome to the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where we unwind, relax, and delve into all things hammock related. Join us as we swing into the world of hammocks, exploring tips and tricks for setting up that perfect hang, sharing stories of outdoor adventures, and discovering the latest trends in hammock camping and relaxation. Whether you're a seasoned hammocker or new to the art of hanging, this podcast is your cozy corner to kick back, escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and soak in the soothing atmosphere of the hammock culture. Prepare to be inspired, educated, and entertained as we embrace the hammock lifestyle together. So grab your favorite hammock, find that perfect spot to hang, and let's embark on a hammock-filled journey that will leave you feeling refreshed, rejuvenated, and ready to take on the world. This is the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where every episode is a breath of fresh air. Let's get started.
Howdy Hangers, welcome to this week's episode of the Hammock Hangers Podcast. I'm Phoenix, and I am again running solo this week, but good news, fellow hangers. Paul, the majestic skunk ape, will be back on a normal recording basis with us. Luckily, Paul has gotten a change in his work gig that it's going to allow him to be back on more podcasts here very, very shortly. So we are thrilled to have him back on a more regular basis here soon. And I'm sure you guys are probably excited to hear somebody else's voice most of the time than mine. I know I am. There may be even some that I might even let Paul go solo on because we're going on a road trip this summer and I need someone else's voice to listen to. Other than mine, because I don't listen to mine. Okay. But I just kind of want to throw out a few hangs that are coming up in the very near future, and some the very weekend that this podcast is going to be released. Our good friends from the SoCal State Hangers will be doing their annual hang on May 15th through 18th in the Lobo campsite of the San Bernardino National Forest out in Southern California. That looks to be an amazing hang, and I totally wish I could be out there if I wasn't in the midst of full-blown testing season here in Florida. So, guys, I hope your hang goes immensely well. I'll be hanging with you in spirit. Another hang that is going to be coming up on May 23rd. It will be Bacon Fest, hosted by a friend of the podcast, Carla with a K, and that will be on May 23rd to the 25th. And our friends from the Midha will be having their annual summer hang on July 17th at Minister Creek in Pennsylvania, I believe. So make sure that you definitely check those out, either on hammock forums. It's tend to be where I find the best place to find the hangs that are coming up around the country. This week we have, I don't want to say special guest because I always say that. She's not really special. Well, she is special, but she's a friend of the show. We love her to death. We have the one and only, the hang organizer for Machilligans. We have Stephanie back on the podcast with us. So, Stephanie, welcome back, my friend.
Glad to be here. Thanks to let me know I'm not special.
You are more than special. You are unique. I'll tell you the same thing that I tell my students. You remember, don't ever forget, you are unique, just like everyone else. But yes, we are so glad.
The same thing when I was on their podcast. Chad was like, "Well, I keep saying that everybody's special, but like saying the exact same thing. I keep saying everybody's special, so I'm not going to call you special." And it's like, well, I guess nobody thinks I'm special then. Okay.
Usually, special in my world is not exactly a good thing. So But
Yeah.
so you're back on, and I just want to say you just graduated your undergrad, correct?
Yeah, I just received my second associates and then my bachelor's back to back. I had two graduations last week.
Girl, you doing too much. But hey, congratulations on that. That's a huge accomplishment. I know last time we talked, that was kind of like the goal that was kind of working into the mix, and I'm so proud of you for kind of getting that done. And your bachelor's doesn't stop there for you. You were actually looking to continue to pursue that with getting your master's, correct?
Yeah, in the fall, I start at Western Michigan to get my master's in industrial organizational behavioral management.
That sounds like a precious.
Essentially, it's behavior management, aka psychology, in the workplace. I'll be focusing on training and development for neurodivergent employees.
Adults.
Yes.
Bless your heart. I struggle enough with kids, and I'm good.
It's more of helping these large companies understand how brains are different.
Brains are different, and that's something that, like, man, I've just really blossomed into my majestic mermaid in the past couple of years. I have two kids. Both are neurospicy individuals, and sometimes that's amazing. Like, to see my son see and hear and play and sing music the way that he does. I played music my entire life, but him at even a young age, he's much more talented in music than I will ever be, and that's because of that. And sometimes it's just like wonderful, like just seeing that talent. And then there's other times where I'm just like, why can't you all just be normal? But yeah, like both my kids, well, maybe, and my wife, she says that I am too, which I probably am. But Team Sparkle Squirrel right here. But that's incredible. That's incredible. We definitely need more people in the world that is bringing attention to kind of those neurodivergent qualities in people. I think there's a lot of stigma around that, especially with adults. And this podcast just turned into AJ's educational soapbox, but I digress. So we are here
Well,
to kind of talk about.
I can actually tie that into hammocks if you want.
Hey, let's do that. So that's what
I'm actually working on a research project about integrating hammocks into like break room areas at companies, essentially. So the benefits of adding like a chair hammock or that opportunity for people, just the effect of having hammocks in the workplace. So it's a cool thing.
You could definitely like tag Cal and Christian from Yobo, because that turtlebug hammock chair is I sat in that while we were over in Europe, and man, whew, it's mighty fun. I would love to have one of those in my classroom. I'm sure it's totally not going to fit, but
well, I just thought even in a break room, like you can have, when you go on your lunch or something, be able just to lay in a hammock versus go sitting in your car or sitting at a table or whatever. Like,
so I could have a hammock that I sit in my break room and quietly cry to myself and not have to go out to the car and just quietly sob. No, I do love my job.
Everybody wants to sob at their job sometimes, though.
It's just, there are days. There are definitely days. But I mean, I totally get that. A conversation that I had recently here on the podcast with a librarian from Mississippi was they integrating hammocks into the school culture and providing that an area for kids to go out there and read. And that was just a huge success with them. And since then, I've talked to some other people that have also integrated something very similar in their schools. My school is interested in also incorporating some of that in the future as well. And it really, I think, provides an opportunity that's not necessarily being tapped into per se.
Yeah, it's definitely there's definitely, especially with neurodivergent people, like having that security of a hammock. Yeah.
So, for those of you that maybe have not heard kind of your story on a former episode, like who are you to like talk about like what are your qualifications as far as talking about hammocks and health? Like, why should someone take what you have to say? Let's talk to your experience with just your opportunities that you have been given to make you into the person that you are.
Okay, yeah, because that's definitely something. Why am I wanting to listen to this person? That kind of thing. Well, first of all, I am what am I? I am an
You are
yes,
special.
I am very special. I have a whole history of medical conditions, but I've always been overweight. I fluctuate between 320 to and I'm around 320. So I understand, the differences you need with being overweight. I also have a medical condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, also known as EDS, which is a connective tissue disorder. So the condition causes a lot of other problems. It can affect different people in different ways. But the most common thing, including what affects me, is it causes my joints to randomly dislocate. I'll wake up and put about 2 or 3 joints back in just from sleeping. Usually it's my hip and my knee. But so yeah, there's that. It's also caused a condition I have called POTS, called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So with that, I'm very heat intolerant. So hot showers, I'm not supposed to, but Lord knows I can't give up my hot showers. That's raising my hands above my head. You know when you stand up, AJ, you stand up and sometimes you get a little dizzy, just lightheaded from standing up too fast. So the way POTS works is that happens almost every time unless you're thinking about it, and you don't just get dizzy, you're more likely to actually pass out. And when I lived in Texas, I would pass out between my back door and my car. So, and I was passing out like 9 to 11 times a day. So,
and that is that from like the heat intolerance mainly?
Yeah, so that's from the POTS, which is caused by my EDS.
Gotcha.
So, so that's on that side of things. I also can't keep my arms above my head for very long. I can't stand for very long. Back when I first got diagnosed with EDS and before we really had a handle on my condition, I was in a wheelchair full time. So that was for about a year. And that was rough because we also realized my EDS was causing dental problems. So now I have a full set of dentures, which when you're camping, that's also something you have to think about, because how are you going to take care of these things, especially if it's something you're self-conscious about? Like, how do you manage that? And when, like, I have really bad vertigo, well, who would want to be in a hammock when you have bad vertigo? Some people, but it causes a whole host more things. But I also have scoliosis, so back problems, hip problems, a lot of migraines. Like, so I have this whole host of things that have stopped me from going camping and doing, not just camping, but doing things I love. But like I said in the last one, like, because I found hammock camping, I found out that I could now go out and do these things if I make modifications. So finding those modifications is kind of what gives me, I feel like lets me talk on these things.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I've said this to you like privately, but I've always really appreciated like just our candor and like just openness to discussing like yeah, like we're in rough shape. I think that's it, as you list off a long list of health problems and conditions that like you are struggling with on a normal basis, where you have Joe Schmo down there. It's like, well, I got too much. I don't know if I can go camping this weekend. Like you have so many obstacles and yet like you're running a hang and you're out camping and um hammocks has really opened that possibility for you.
Yeah, it really has. But well, I mean, that's just on the physical side. We can talk about the mental health side later, but the I say all this because not many people know what Ehlers-Danlos is or POTS or some of these other things, but they could also relate because they have hip dysplasia or they have, muscular problems or they have similar symptoms. So just because you don't know what EDS is or how it works, you can still translate some of the things that I have to do to help you or to help them. So
Now, how has hammocks kind of helped with um like, how has hammocks specifically helped your experience with the physical attributes that you have beyond the weight, which we'll get to here shortly. How has the hammocks helped with like I'm thinking just off the top of my head with your joints that randomly dislocate. How is sleeping in a hammock beneficial for that versus a traditional bed?
so that one was kind of tricky to get around, but
Mm-hmm.
the way you go to put a joint back into place, depending on what joint it is, usually you want gravity to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So, because my joints are going to dislocate no matter what I do. I sneezed and messed up a vertebrae in my neck one time. So, but because I have the gravity just below the I can hang my leg, like say it's my hip, I can hang my leg off uh the hammock and let gravity work my hip back up into its socket. Also, with certain style hammocks, so uh, I've slept in several different ones. The Depending on where you have the pain or where you're having the joint problem, certain styles can take a lot of the pressure off of those areas. So it's all I find that being in a hammock, because it's more custom to how you want to lay or how you can lay, it's easier to take the pressure off of certain areas. So even though I have a Tempur-Pedic adjustable bed,
Mm-hmm.
and I still get like if I find that perfect hang, like that perfect position, like I'll wake up and maybe only have one joint to put out, but that's a lot better.
Right. So do you have like different hammocks that you take out depending on maybe what might be hurting per se?
Not so much like so I've laid in other hammocks. The one that and not to toot his horn because everybody already loves him, but if you were looking at getting a gathered in hammock, I would still
Mm-hmm.
suggest the Majestic just because of its lack of pressure points with how it's
Mm-hmm.
designed. But I personally don't have a lot of different types of hammocks. I've used other people's.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you're having a lot of back pain when you lay on your side, or if you have a lot of hip pain with, or like, as bridge hammocks are really nice for being able to stretch out. Um, the big boy, I think it's the big guy hammock. Bill
Yeah, the
makes
big guy bridge
big
from
guy bridge.
Bill
That one,
Townsend.
yeah. If I got a bridge hammock, it would probably be that one because as soon as I laid in it, it's like immediate traction on my spine. So I just felt
Mm-hmm.
my spine just relax. So it's all about finding whatever your normal problem issues are, it's all about finding what kind of hammock you work with that. So yeah, to go back to where you were asking the question, if I'm having an issue where, say, I recently tore my meniscus, so I'm having knee problems, I probably would go to a bridge. That way I can put some more support under my knee and not have to worry about the hyperextension, even though if you lay right, it shouldn't happen. But outside of that, it's what you normally what your normal issues are is kind of determines. I don't know if I'm
So
saying
you
that right.
found like maybe just spitballing in my mind, I would just assume maybe when you get in a gathered hen, you're kind of cradled in, kind of like this ice cream scoop almost of fabric. Do you think that like tends to, for lack of a better term, hold the joints closer together so they don't relax and fall out of socket, or
Actually,
am I just
yeah.
completely off base here?
No, you're not off base, because I would say so, because you're right, it does add, because you're not just laying flat on something, you do have pressure coming in, more, like say for your shoulders, you have that shoulder squeeze that people dread, but that shoulder caress, I'll say a shoulder caress, will help push pressure back on there. Maybe not fix the problem, but give you a less likely chance of it popping out. But it's more of a what do you add to your hammock that helps. So you can take out about any hammock you want. It's more of like what do you take with that hammock that helps you out.
So your go-to, if you were saying like your Swiss Army knife of body fixing capabilities, would be which hammock for you?
Gathered in, it would be the Majestic. If I had it, probably the Big Guy Bridge.
Big Guy Bridge.
Yeah, that would be if I had a bridge hammock.
Gotcha.
The next one would be the Haven, because then you can.
Haven?
Yeah, the next one would probably be the Haven.
Okay.
Very close.
We saw it was kind of a very similar to Bill's, Helsden.
Yeah, I saw that.
Over in Denmark, and that was a very interesting design. It was almost like it was very similar to Bill's, but it was kind of like that, and like a Townsend Bridge and a Haven had like this love child, and they've been around for a long time. And I want to say, I don't know the exact details of the story, but the guy that designed them, he was maybe the old Eureka Chrysalis hammock from like way back in the day, and a lot of different steps to get to this one. And maybe I'm thinking of a different one as well, but super great looking hammock out there when I saw that.
It's on Shook's video, actually, the one he just put out. He talked a lot about that one and some other pretty cool hammocks that are out there. I went to the website like as soon as I saw it. It does look pretty cool.
It's a really interesting design, and I got the contact information while we're over it. We'll definitely have them on the podcast as well. But it has a window in the tarp, and you're like, oh, well, what if it rains? It'll just rain back in there. They have a solution for that. It's almost like an inner tarp.
Yeah, and it's like if the rain starts coming in sideways, you can close it down all around or something.
And it runs in the water, even if it rains like through the window, like it still drains around the hammock to drop off, so like your stuff doesn't get wet.
Yeah,
and so it was really cool. And he also talked about how that can also work as an insulating factor as well, because you create that air gap within the two tarps, and it's a much more efficient insulating top cover for if you live and camp in colder weathers.
Yeah, and one of the things I really liked about, from what I saw, was because it all had that like secondary tarp piece that came down around this bottom ish kind of thing. Like, I get spooked at night sometimes when I'm solo camping, so I could just like open that a little bit and see
Yeah.
see what's going on, instead of if you're covered under a huge tarp, you're like trying to look underneath this.
I sometimes when I'm like solo camping, I guess a lot earlier in my camping journey, I would hear some like weird things and I didn't want to look. It was just more of like, well, I'm just accepting the fact that this is where I die. But in reality, it was probably like a chipmunk or something like that. Just sounds massive in the woods.
What I tell people when they're going solo camping, which is also a non-traditional camper for women at least.
100%.
When you're going solo camping and you start hearing things, I make a play in my head. Like I say, okay, well, that is just two squirrels talking to each other about who has the most, I'll say, the most nuts. And like I'll name them in my head, and I'll have this whole thing every time I hear this noise, like, oh yeah, they just got mad, and there's a love triangle or something, just to keep my brain occupied. Like, I'll have this whole like TV episode going in my head, so I'm not thinking, it's a bear.
It's fine. This is fine. I mean, I think like that's solo camping is so like fun, and but it's also like a very specific skill that certain people love. I think us, as both of us being very outgoing introverts, as we tend to be, like I think that's something that definitely appeals to us, is just like getting away and enjoying that, but also, sometimes, still being scared of the dark. I get chuckled. Some of our Canadian friends that came down to HangCon this year, and they're like, "Oh, well, we were worried about seeing alligators and snakes," and I'm thinking to myself, it's 40 degrees at night. Like you're not going to see alligators. Like they're very much like it's winter. They're very much like not necessarily hibernating, but they're not moving too much. Snakes the same way. That's not how reptiles work.
Yep. Exactly.
I just got a chuckle of that. But I mean, I can get it too. I remember when I first moved down to Florida, growing up in the mountains of Virginia, and we were swimming on this like little canal kind of thing. And I felt something very large. Yeah. I felt something very large brush against my leg. At that point, I lose all verbal filter because I'm thinking Lake Placid alligator is about to eat me. It was a baby. It was a manatee, and a little mom and baby manatee that bumped up against my leg. They attacked me. This is the hill that I will.
You didn't touch it. It touched you.
It touched me. It violated my personal space, and I was not okay. Neither were the group of middle school girls that heard every curse word under the rainbow at that particular moment, that just stood on the dock and laughed at me. They're in their 30s now, but like laughing at me. Crazy.
Yeah.
But
now, are you things... like? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to squirrel for a second. You mentioned being afraid of the dark. The nighttime doesn't really bother me. It's the dusk, right as it's starting to go. I don't know if anybody else like this listeners like that, but as it's going from daylight to night, it's that time gets to the eerie where I start getting the heebie-jeebies.
Have you ever had anything like legitimately was just like, oh crap, that was it wasn't just some chipmunks fighting over nuts? Like it maybe was something? Have you like literally ever had something where like, oh crap, I actually really was maybe
not as an adult. We did have a bear go through the camp, but no, we had a bobcat at one point. But that not as an adult. That was when I was a kid.
Gotcha.
We did get harassed by like a whole bunch of raccoons, and they peed on my tarp, but that was it.
Raccoons are like vicious in the wood. Like
I
People
woke
worry
up
about
and there was.
bears like getting their food. Like no, like raccoon. Like I need an Ursac for the darn raccoons.
I've had more
Um,
issues with people than I have animals. So
I have two, but raccoons rank up there. I
yeah, I
think one
woke
of
up
my greatest.
one morning and there was we had a whole bunch of raccoons around the area, and I woke up and there was a bunch like a line of pee on the tarp because it was cold, so I had it battened all the way down. And those raccoons, I guarantee you, those raccoons had come up and just peed right on my tarp, and that's what was keeping my dog awake. And yeah, that was yeah.
I think I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast before, but it's one of my favorites to tell around the campfire. We were camping one time, and those raccoons infested. We'll go to the level of infesting this campground. But I had just made this like 32-ounce Yeti cup, probably about 3/4 of the way full of Bacardi rum and maybe a 1/4 of Dr. Pepper. Yeah, choices were made. And I like sat it down, and then I went back to my hammock to get my headlamp or something like that before going to try. This darn raccoon knocked this sucker over, and I had the lid on it, so it was just dribbling out. He sucked down a good 3/4 of that mixed drink. Now, the greatest part about this was this raccoon now was drunk as a skunk, and he saw that there were other people there, so he tried to run and climb a tree. We sat around the campfire and we watched this drunk as a skunk raccoon try to climb literally maybe 12 feet up a tree for 20 minutes to finally get on the first low lying branch and just essentially just pass out. He was gone the next morning, but I'd hate to know how that raccoon felt when he got out. But
I've seen
or another
raccoons
one,
do
yeah,
that.
another one that we had was we had an alley. It was just not at night. We had about a 5-foot gator walk right through our campsite at Hidden Pond one time. I mean, that wasn't terrifying. That was just like, cool. You're going that way, right? Okay, yeah. Keep going. Keep going. I just was sitting in my hammock with my phone, just like recording it. It's like, yeah, this is real life. We've also had some wild hogs.
Ooh,
We say
those things
wild
are
hogs. It
mean.
may have just been one. Completely root up our campground, with the exception of a 3-foot radius of where our butts hung in our hammocks. That was quite an intense experience, but we
That's what's
apparently
so
we didn't
eerie.
sleep through it.
That's what's so eerie when you see all this, like, wake up to all this stuff, and then you're like the space where your tent tarp is, not even enclosed tent, like is not bothered. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, I had all this, raccoon pee. You had the hog rooting up stuff, and you'll see all this stuff going on around, but they won't bother you normally. But I
Normally,
have had a
yeah.
possum go underneath my hammock, but that was
Yeah, I watched the armadillo, an armored possum, uh, walk underneath my son's hammock one time when we were out there. But yeah, just
it
the
also helps
irrational
that I have a
fear.
dog with me. A lot of animals want to stay away from my dog because she's 75
That's
pounds.
pretty legit. That's pretty legit. But
I've had her at
as
hang
we, oh, there she is,
time.
beautiful dog. But as we return from our squirrel path,
Oh
so
Lord,
what I'm trying to be good here.
we don't have
So
Paul
what?
telling us to stay on track.
Yeah. So one of the things that we both have struggled with, and I still say that like I struggle with it in a little ways too, is issues with weight and hanging, and we've talked numerous times, most recently about 5 minutes before we started recording, about get, getting information from people about hammock camping that maybe have never struggled with weight. Um, I've told on the podcast before, I have weighed hammock camping in the realm of 450. So it definitely can be done. But you, like myself, I hate I hate, detest, despise any comments from people on hammock forums or mainly Facebook, because people are precious on Facebook. Their first thing is just like, oh, just lose weight. And that irks me. So what are some for those that may be listening that may themselves or have a friend that is interested in getting into hammock, but hey, they're a person of size. What words of encouragement would you give from your experience that might be beneficial to them?
Okay, so I've caught part of that because it seemed like you broke up for a hot minute. But you want to ask that question one more time because you sounded synthesized for like 2 minutes.
So if we have some listeners that made themselves or someone that they may know that might be on the fence about trying hammock camping or just seeing if that would be something for them, what words of encouragement or advice would you give to them that might be beneficial?
So if you don't feel like you can do something, consider why you think you can't do it. And I say this like, if you say I can't do it because I'm overweight, like why do you feel like your weight is a factor? That if it's one of those things, well, I'm worried that a hammock's not going to hold me up. Hardly any manufacturers will tell you this, but a lot of the manufacturers give a very safe, weird word to say,
nobody wants to get sued. Let's just say that nobody wants to get sued.
So if they say it's a 250-pound weight limit and you're 350, that doesn't mean it's not going to be able to hold you. They're saying that we don't want the liability of it possibly falling at that point. Most times in my experience, like when it says it's a 250, there's no, you don't have a problem. That's like saying the best buy date of food or something. It doesn't mean that after that day is over, that all of a sudden that food is completely rancid. Like you maybe will go another day or so. So I wouldn't be too hung up on not being under 250. Like I don't get too hung up on the numbers. So
yeah,
go
I
out
would
there
say
and try something.
The hammock that I have in my backyard that I made 6 years ago. Oh, I guess it's probably been a little bit longer than that now. Probably closer to 8 years. I made that out of 1.7 mountain, which I think at the time, a lot of people were saying like 350, and that's still a pretty stout thing. It's literally been outside every single day of its life. It's still under a covered patio, but it is outside, exposed to the elements. I never had, it's still there. And I was hanging in that just on the back porch when I was 450 and now all the way down to 220. I'm not at 220 right now. Probably around 250.
Thank you, Denmark.
But yeah, it's got to be Denmark. Darn bread. But I have never had any hammock fabric fail. I'm trying to think about that like real quick. Like, nope. I've never had any hammock body fail on me. And I've tried most anything. Now, I haven't done any like uber stupid light stuff like the
monolight.
No monolight. Now I did make a hammock of the 1.4, the one from Ripstop by the Roll. I can't remember the one off the top of my head. While I'm chatting, I'll kind of look at that. But that one I did make. But the 0.7 cloud. No, it is 1.4 monolight. Yeah, that's what it was. But the cloud, like the 0.7 cloud, I know Paul had one that he bought, and he's like, try it. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I am good. That has way too much stretch for me. And my buddy Britt, who's also a gentleman of size, he got in it and he was fine. Again, that inherent fear that this fabric will not hold me.
Right.
I remember that being mainly the bang. And nobody want to fall. Nobody want to fall. For one, that sudden stop at the bottom, it hurts. And for one, that's one thing that skinny people don't realize. When a fat person falls, it hurts a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more mass. The science behind a fat guy falling is significantly less than some string being falling out. The
Just because
says,
you got more cushion around you, doesn't mean that it's going to protect you.
That's a lie.
Yeah,
that cushion still hurts.
Yeah, that fabric right there, that's bug net material to me. That's heavy duty bug net to me. That's no. But also that makes a good point though. Whenever you're talking about, it held somebody else up, but mentally you're like, I don't feel safe enough that for me, like, even though I could see somebody, get in one that's, 100 pounds more than me, I know just my luck, it's going to tear. Yep. So there's also a mental aspect of it that it's hard to overcome that until you actually just, get it and do it. And I hate to say that because duh, but
I mean, I think just hammock camping alone is just a big leap of faith out of the normal. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, for one, overcoming that first hurdle of this single piece of fabric is going to hold my 400-pound butt. Like, man, or you're already playing it in your head, kind of like you're saying in the wood story. You're already playing it in. All right, if this rips and fall, like you're pretending as if you have the reflexes of Spider-Man that I could roll this way and it fall on this right butt cheek and be avoiding this. It's like, no, your ass is just going to go to the ground real quick. Mm-hmm. But you're playing that in your head as if you're going to fall in slow motion, and spoiler alert, you will not.
Now, the best thing you can do, though, that I've found to help is, once again, it's embracing the flat lay. Because if your butt is more, if your head is up higher, when you fall, your head has further to fall. So your butt may land first, but your head has harder to fall. If you fall flat, this is we don't want to talk about falling because you're in a hammock. We want to but inevitably, if you fall, if the hammock fails, you want to be flatter because it's less pressure points that trying to think of the word for it, but the absorption of that impact is leveler, more level. That makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
So
the force is spread out over a greater surface.
The force is with you.
Yeah. I'm a math and science teacher, but I remember when I was getting into hammocks, dude, I did a lot of math. So I'm like, all right, well, this suspension says this. So that is the angles that you're hanging plus the fabric weight. It's it's like a comfort rated, or then you're gauging the suspensions. All right, well, if I'm using 7/8 or if I'm using 1/8 am steel, that's going to be bomb proof. I remember initially going in thinking, I want my hammocks to be bomb proof. I want my hammocks to be able to hold a 5,000-pound elephant. That's it, obnoxiously large weight capacities.
I got the 10-foot seatbelt strap. I think I got it from Dutch, but it was the seatbelt strap tree wraps.
Yeah.
I found out I don't really need it.
I would only buy the 3,000-pound weight rated polyester. Mm-hmm. That's the only ones that I would buy.
And I want to say to the listeners, if that's what makes you feel more comfortable having that extra weight, because all of us plus size people, larger hangers. We all struggle with that. Then do it. There are more inexpensive options that are weighted for high weight. There's a daisy chains that are 1,000 pound rated, and like that's something easy you can do. Now, that did bring me to one of my points about choosing a hammock, though. Like you're talking about making all the calculations and all that. Like when it comes to choosing a hammock, one thing that smaller people don't really have as much to contend with is the stretch. And that's not just and not just in the suspension, the hammock itself. So if you have, for example, if you put a baseball in a hammock, or you put a baseball in a hammock and it goes down a little bit, but you put a bowling ball in that hammock, there's a difference. You may be closer to the ground. So that aspect, when you're looking for a hammock, you want to find a hammock that's not as stretchy. If you go the complete opposite direction and there's no stretch to it, you can always find something that's more stretchy. If that makes sense. Tell me if I'm not making sense. I'm more stretch, off. But when you're looking for something to use, you want to find something that's not as stretchy. That can be if you want to make it yourself, or you know someone else that can make it, the 1.7. It has some stretch to it. Mountain. I love the 2.2 hex D. Love it. There is hardly any stretch to that, actually. So if you want some kind of stretch to it, that might not be, but that's a good place to start. But also double layer hammocks. So even you say, oh, well, the 1.6 hex D comes in all these colors. A lot of manufacturers or vendors use 1.6. Is that hex? Not hex D.
Hyper D.
Hyper D. Thank you.
1.6 Hyper D.
Yeah, and that's
has an amazing feel. It
Yes.
comes in a bunch of colors, and it is hands down, in my opinion, the greatest feeling hammock fabric.
Have you tried the 1.8 Airweave one yet?
Yes.
Oh, you don't like
Not
it?
for
I
me.
like it.
Not for me.
But what I was saying though is if you are worried about, if you're wanting all these colors, say you want to print, 1.6 is going to be in the print, like you can get that printed, but you don't want the weight, like you're worried about the weight, because I think they rated it like 250 or something like that. I don't think it's
that, yeah.
If you're that concerned about it, do it in a double layer.
Or triple layer. I've even heard people of doing triple layer hammocks.
And you don't even have to use the same fabric.
No.
I have one of my bomb-proof hammocks that I made was a 1.7 mountain and the 2.2 double layer. So that thing is not going anywhere. So if you want the color from one but the feel from another, like you can have all that. You can have what you can have what other people have. You just have to think about it a little differently. So pay attention to the stretch of what you're getting.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I looked at. I would never go. I mean, even now, I don't know if I would go anything lower than a 1.6. I know there's like some 1.2s that would hold my weight and stuff like that. But for me, I really like a stiff hammock. Like, I don't like a lot of stretch. And I don't know how much of that is carried over from, when I was super heavy, that unconscious fear of like super stretch to me means, well, stretched kind of like a rubber band. Eventually that rubber band is going to snap and gravity will still work. But picking out the fabrics, or like, I love the feel of the 1.6, but when I was making my own hammocks, I would go for either the 2.2 hex, because not only is it'll hold the weight, it's also very abrasion resistant as well. So I would do the outer layer with the hex, but the inner layer with the 1.6 because I love the feel of the 1.6 on my skin. Same thing with the Hexon, like the 1.6 Hexon. I would use that on the outside for, or even I think there was like a 2.4 Hexon back in the day. But I would even use that in with a 1.0 because I like the feel of the 1.0, but my butt ain't gonna sit in the 1.0 hammock. But if you double that up, you get all the benefits of both layers of fabric.
Yeah, there needs to be a calculator out there somewhere about that. Like,
I'm sure there
you add
is.
1.1
Derek
and
Hansen, let's get on
1.2.
it.
Yeah, I was talking to him about something like that at
I think at
Hangcon.
one point, like Ripstop by the Roll had, or maybe Dream Hammock had kind of like this conversion chart. Like if you had a double layer and this was the inner layer and this was the outer layer, it would tell
Actually,
you
yeah, Dream
the.
Hammock still has that on. I was just
I
on their
I,
website
I
not
would
too long ago.
I want to say that I looked at that a lot when I was ordering my Sparrow 100 years ago. And I remember looking at that and like, again, that was part of the fat guy math that I was just like, what is going to hold my big butt up?
Yeah, Dream
But I
Hammock
think,
actually has a lot of knowledge pages that uh for sizes and hammock weights and stuff.
I know, that was such a big thing for me. And, going into suspensions as well, because it's the plethora of hammocks that there are out there. There's still as equally as many suspension options. Um, and I would always think, when I got into hammock camping, I also kind of took the leap of faith into doing some hiking as well. And even now, I wouldn't necessarily call myself a serious hiker, more so now than I was then. But I'd always just kind of tell myself, lightening the load of my pack was the least of the areas that I could lighten. A few grams here and there is not going to really affect the grand scheme of things. So I really would hike for, I know that this gear is going to hold up and I know I'm going to be comfortable. And by golly, I'm going to be comfortable. Even now, like, yeah, I can think about weight a little bit if I'm going on a longer hike. I don't want a 30-pound backpack. But the majority of the camping that I'm doing is car camping. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of evolved within the hammock community, especially at hangs. When I would go to a lot of hangs early, it was all hikers, like not just like weekend warrior hikers, like people that were hiking. At the time, like I was lucky to get 2 miles in because I was more of a wandering napper. I would walk a few miles in order to take a nap because that's really all the energy that I had to do. But it was all hikers. And now when you go to, you know, maybe you can speak to this as far as like the Machilian. When I look at hangs that I've been to, not just HangCon, but Fall Sprawl, even in Europe, that group of people that are coming to these things has really expanded outside of just ultralight backpackers, which I am not.
Well, and even at that, so obviously I haven't been in the hammock game as long as you have, but I have looked at watched videos and talked to people from, that's been in it way longer than I have. And it does seem like in general, ultralight is starting to take a back seat. So I think more people are getting more concerned with comfort, which also helps the people that are what we're calling non-traditional campers. You're not having to try and mentally compete with, all the ultralight stuff that may not hold your butt in the air. Like there's more products coming out there, more focused towards more like comfort, which are going to be a little bit heavier, which are going to be a little bit more robust. So I think in general, with the kind of shift that I've seen at least, is also going to be helping the people we're talking about right now.
Well, speaking of that, like I know we had a lot of things that we wanted to get to, but
Yeah.
yeah, I also fully know like how our conversations go with the real life. But this is something that I definitely wanted to get, especially for this episode. Is you talk about the non traditional hammockers or
Mhm.
the non traditional campers because not everybody that comes to these hangs are hammock people. They're just kind of curious about these crazy air tents. Is most people don't know any better. They come see this, and we both are hang organizers. I just kind of wanted to talk about like how you address accessibility when you're like planning hangs, and I think you definitely could speak to this a lot more than me because that's something that you personally deal with on a regular basis. That's not something that I do. So how do you address the issue of accessibility when you are not just camping but when you're planning your hangs? How do you address the issue?
Well, first, I like to be upfront. Like that's something
Mm-hmm.
I like that y'all did. Like, I want to let everybody know what we have available. So there's not any at Machiligan. There's not any concrete, walkways or sidewalks or anything like that a wheelchair may want to navigate. But um, I also try to not so much as reserve the closer areas that you can park, but encourage people to, because we have plenty of trees that you can use that are kind of pushed away, but trying to encourage people to use those trees further and leave the spaces that people can park closer to for those people that need it. So when it comes like site selections, mostly is about being open and honest about what you have, so the expectation is there. But when it comes to like making sure that people that need accommodations or something have the ability to tell us. Obviously, we're not going to say, "Hey, what's your condition?" We're not going to pry and all
Right.
that. But like in our registration, we leave open like, is there anything you need us to know? Like anything, especially with us serving food. Like, do you have any food allergies that so we can just put a flag of like, hey, this food has this in it, or um, like we do these activities. Are you going to need help with that? Or is there anything that we need to consider? Because we will. May not be able to fix the problem, but if we know that it's there, then we can try and address it. Um, I will also say, and this is very important even for people without disabilities, letting people know, which we're going to do that better this year, but letting people know that if you are having some kind of medical problem or you need some kind of help, like who they can talk to. Like we have people that are have specific training and certifications that just happen to be, part. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. Part of Machiligan, like me, I'm CPR first aid AED certified, but letting people know what's available to them, uh, let us know how we can help you. Uh, yeah, did that answer your
Yeah,
question?
I think as far as like my staff at HangCon, we have trained medical professionals, whether that be hospital nurses. We have one of those. We have a law enforcement that has usually have Lord forbid, we have Narcan that we have at our disposal. We have CPR certified staff on staff. They're not necessarily wearing a badge, but we definitely have that in place because I mean, whether you're a hang of like 30 people or 600 people, crap happens. You never want to think that, oh, I'll never have a medical emergency. It's never happened until it does.
Yeah, you don't want to try and think about that whenever, like,
It's
when
happening.
yeah, when it's happening. Like we now have to have special, like, not so much as insurance, but we have to have a medical plan written down for our permit for where we are. So we have to have a actual written plan that if somebody needs to go to the hospital, what hospital we go to, who's driving, we have to have that written down. So having those already in the back of your mind, like, because say I was there and I passed out, okay, well, what do we need to do for it? Or you never know. Do you have splints on standby in case somebody breaks something? Like, because you're
Yeah,
hanging in
like
a tree.
I think that's a great piece of advice for anybody that is looking to start a hang. It's just no, I don't want to like scare anybody from doing that, but just some things to take into consideration. I think that's a great deal of having a plan for if poop hits the fan for somebody, which you never hope. But yeah,
I'll say this for other hang organizers too. Uh, be Make sure you're on really good terms with whoever owns the property. Like for us, we're at a state park. Last year, I really didn't know the management office, but now I have them on speed dial. So if I was to have a problem, I know who I can contact. I don't have to wait for a ranger to come through. If you're doing it on a private land, make sure that they know the land better than you. Like obviously, you have a really good relationship with uh I forgot the name of the people that own the land that HangCon's on.
yeah, the Will McLean and yeah,
Yeah, but
we know the camp host really well. There's Will, Tammy, and Jason.
like have that relationship with the people that own the land because they know the area better than you probably ever will. So that's some advice for people wanting to start out. Like get to know
I
the
think for
people.
me, like, and you can probably attest to this as well. One of the hardest things if you are looking at starting a hang is finding a location. For me, like that, hands down, that's the hard. Like the planning and stuff, I can do in my sleep, and miraculously it works. But like if we had to find another location for, not just HangCon, but we're looking at potentially doing some other kind of smaller events within Florida, maybe some in Georgia. The biggest pain in the butt, and in some cases the most expensive, is finding a new location and the cost that it incurs for that. Um, but one of the things that I look at when we're looking at new locations is specifically how accessible is it for people to come in. And, I don't have a mobility specific handicap, but, I don't want to have to walk 5 miles to go to the bathroom. I like having, handicap accessible restroom facilities. I like having access. I don't want to have to necessarily climb a bunch of stairs. And that's not just because of avoiding having a handicap. I know how clumsy I am. And I don't want to incur that potential of somebody hurting themselves. So having a more handicap accessible site might benefit everybody involved, just not just those with mobility handicap
Well,
accessibility.
I'm gonna add two things to that. So first of all, I lucked out when it comes to Machiligan. They've been in the same place since 2013. So I didn't have to find another spot, but because they're doing a lot of site work at different state parks around here, I have backup options.
Mm-hmm.
And a surprising place which may not be surprising, but that you can try and find locations is actually on Hip Camp because they offer group sites. So for people that are maybe looking at starting one, Hip Camp is great because you could talk to people, the people beforehand, and because they'll do groups, they'll have plenty of space for you. But so I didn't have that problem, but I do kind of have it what if situation in my head. But crap, and I was gonna say something else. Oh, so another part about knowing the people that you have the company that you have the property from is they may be willing to work with you more than what you think. You've probably saw, AJ, my video I put on our Machilican site about me talking to the state park office, and they're now installing hammock stands where we are. So they'll be installing actual in-ground hammock stands in the Machiligan area. Now that was considered for accessibility too, because these are in the flatter areas. So if you know the people that you're working with, they may be more willing to, especially as you establish a relationship with them, they'd be more willing to help you out in ways you didn't think they would. I didn't think they would actually build hammock stands for us. It was kind of a shot in the dark, but then they're like, "Yeah, you've been here since 2013. Yeah, we'll do it for you." So, yeah, that's the whole thing about the relationship with.
So, let me ask a personal question for you. Like if you were going to either a campground or a hang or something like that you were not running, which is always great. For someone that is looking for those accessibility options, what are some of the top, I guess, priorities for you as an individual? Like, what are some things that you were specifically looking for?
Me specifically is how hard is the ground? So because you saw me with the crutch or the walker I had, which everybody loved that thing. It was really cool. But if that's digging into sandy soil, then it's not gonna. It's pretty much useless to me. So how hard is the ground? It doesn't have to be packed concrete or packed gravel. Just that. What's the bathroom situation? So is there a trail? If it's a vault toilet, is it? That's fine, but is there like a packed trail to the vault toilet? Is the vault toilet big enough, or the space around it, that it's easy to navigate if I was using my walker or my wheelchair?
And that's just not for like mobility. Like I remember being a larger person, and yeah, I'm only going to the handicap stalls because some of those porta potties that like they have, like I'm sorry, no normal human being is going to fit in there.
Yeah, especially if you're trying not to touch the walls. And fortunately, Machiligan, our vault toilets are very clean, which is very rare. But if you're going in a situation you don't want to touch the walls, you don't want to touch anything, and you're a bigger person, you're taking up more space.
It's rough. It really is.
Yeah. So the condition of the ground and the bathrooms situation, everything else I can just deal with. I can figure it out.
So what maybe like when you guys and I know you've talked to some other hang organizers, what do you find is kind of the most common request, an accessibility request that you are getting for a hang?
Typically it's like how close can I park to it? Like how close can I park to my site? More and more people are coming out that are not through hikers, so they don't, or I would say through hikers, but they either can't or are not comfortable with walking away from their vehicle, especially at a group setting. So usually the biggest question, or especially when people are like coming in to check in, it's like, hey, where can I park close to my site? Now, granted, HangCon is kind of an anomaly where you can't really park close to your site every time.
Right.
But for our little site, that's usually what it is like, how close can I get to it? Without, how close can I park?
Gotcha. All right. Well, as we kind of like wrap things up, let's talk about your hang and when is it? What can we expect for someone that's interested on coming? And let's just give your hang a shout out.
So we Southern Michigan, we have Machilligan, which will be October 2nd through the 5th. If I remember, yes, Thursday through Sunday. At Yankee Springs Recreation Area in the Deep Lake Campground that is right in between Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo. We have a chili cook-off, which is it's been great so far to get some unique chilies. We have a raffle that we use to raise money for the North Country Trail Association Chief Noonday chapter, which we've been able to give them quite a bit and help out with a lot of maintenance work that they've needed to get done. This raffle's going to be pretty epic this year too. I've already got some updates going on. We have a lot of different activities planned, so you get opportunities to check out some classes as well as do our hammock tours, so you get to see other people's setups or show off your setups. We have, that's if you want to fly in, you can come in through Grand Rapids. We're starting up a shuttle system, so you don't have to worry about renting a vehicle. You can let us know you're coming. We'll come pick you up. We'll take you back. There's no cost for it. Meals are provided for Friday dinner. Meals except for lunches are provided, and you can find that information on our Facebook page. Because we have a new meal coordinator who has some really cool ideas, so that maybe get tweaked a little bit, but meals will still be provided.
That's awesome. So you're offering a shuttle service, and you're offering free meals, a free event, supported through raffle donations. So if you're interested, let's buy the crap out of these raffle tickets here, folks. I know that how that kind of rolls. So, there's no excuse that you shouldn't have easily 100 people. So if you're looking for a great hang with some great people, definitely check out Machilligan in the first part of October. And you guys are going to be releasing pre-sale raffle tickets in the next couple months, so keep an eye out for that as well. So
we're hoping, and we actually do have a donation option on our website. So if you go to machilligan.com, if you want to just donate to the hang, we are taking donations. And we hope to have registration opening up on July 1st.
Awesome. Well, we definitely look forward to hearing more from you guys. And Stephanie, again, thanks for joining my Sparkle Squirrel rant for this week. As we wandered all around the trail of conversation.
Yeah, how much did we actually talk about?
It's fine. This is fine. Everything's fine.
We're not going to count the hour that we talked before we actually got on here.
No one needs to know about that. All right, hangers. Thanks for joining this week's episode of the Hammock Hangers Podcast. And Stephanie, again, as always, my pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
If you've enjoyed this week's episode, please give us a like and subscribe onto wherever platform that you get your podcast. We really appreciate the likes and subscribes on our YouTube page. It just helps that algorithm help spread the world of hammocks to the greater good of individuals, even the roaming rantings that we have on a bi-weekly basis. But definitely check out those hangs that we talked about in the earlier episodes, and definitely make Machilligan on your calendar for the first part of October. And we look forward to hearing some great things from you guys. And until next time, happy hanging, everybody.
As we gently sway out of another hammock-filled episode, we want to thank you, our wonderful listeners, for hanging out with us on the Hammock Hangers Podcast. We hope that you have found relaxation, inspiration, and a renewed sense of connection to nature through our discussions. Remember to keep that hammock spirit alive in your daily life, whether it's by taking a few moments to unwind in your own backyard oasis or by planning your next hammock adventure in the great outdoors. Embracing the tranquility, embracing the simplicity, and never forget the joy that comes from simply hanging around. Before we part ways, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date with all things hammock related. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for the Hammock Hangers Podcast. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to hang with you again on our next episode. Until then, stay relaxed, stay adventurous, and keep on hanging those hammocks high. From all of us here at the Hammock Hangers Podcast, we wish you peaceful hangs and endless relaxation. Thank you for tuning in. Happy hanging, everyone.